Well, welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Striving to Thriving, Redefining Success. I'm your host, Barbara Ellison. I am founder of Wellness Playroom for the best version of your life. And I am so excited that you are here and you are taking the time to realize that you can thrive in life. And I have got a fabulous panel of women here that we are going to be talking about just that subject. So stay tuned. And here is Sonya, my co-host. Sonya, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and then introduce your panel of ladies.
Thank you, Barbara. I'm so honored to be here. I'm Sonya Figueiredo, and I'm based in Australia. I am the founder of Mindful Transitions, and I help women who are like me, who are burnt out and struggling and holding it all together. But the reality was, we weren't holding it together, and we were silently crying. And so that's what I do. And I love my work, and I love the beautiful women because when we rise, we really do strive and thrive. I'd like to introduce you to Debbie Jacobs, and she's from the Faith Driven Wellness Advocacy.
Hi, how's everybody doing? I didn't know I was supposed to talk at this time, but I'll go ahead and talk. I thought it was just an introduction. Okay. All right. So I'm Debbie Jacobs, and as she said, I'm a faith-driven wellness advocate with a passion for inspiring women to thrive, spirit, mind, and body. I believe that true wellness, begins with the Word of God, and it is built through the alignment of divine wisdom, daily discipline, and self compassion. I spent decades of my life on the healing journey, and now I'm passionate about helping others find substantial routines for themselves to create clarity, balance, and a breakthrough. I believe that the power of community and how to have the right support the system can help women find strength and purpose as they navigate their journey to health and wellness.
Beautiful. Thank you, Debbie. And I'd like to introduce you to Constance Wills, who is a mindset coach. Come on down, Constance.
Hello, everyone. These beautiful women on this panel. Thank you for having me. And I am Constance Wills. I'm the founder of A Moment with Constance and Beauty Beyond the Wall. And these are both woman geared kind of groups, but they don't totally gear toward women. Other people can listen as well. However, I also am co-hosting a show that's called Choose to Challenge, and that one is Mindset Alchemy. So I am really into us believing that if we change our minds, we can change our lives. That's what I really believe because it has worked for me. And I'll tell you more about that as we get into this conversation a little deeper.
Beautiful. And now the fabulous Miriam Smith Stevens, the brand paramedic. Come on down.
Well, hey, you just introduced me, so what do I need to say? I guess I am the fabulous, according to Sonya, my girl. Miriam Smith Stevens, aka the brand paramedic, CEO and founder of the Thankful Revolution. And we're going to talk about when shift happens. And no, I did not curse. But when that does happen, what do you do next? We'll talk about that and I'll share a little bit of my story with you all. And I'm sure a lot of us can relate. So I hope you all comment and stay tuned with us because we're here to have a great conversation. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'll start with mine, and then Sonia, I'm giving it over to you, and then we'll just have a conversation. Uh, as I said, I'm Barbara Ellison, and my story started after my husband passed away. And when I woke up from my widow's fog, I realized that I had no idea of who I was outside of all the labels that I had put on myself, of being a daughter and a mother, and then a wife and a mother, and then a divorced failure, and then a successful wife again, and a business owner and a grandmother, and now I'm a widow. Who's Barbara in all of that? And had no idea. And it was absolutely the most scariest time of my life. And yet I look back now and know that it was God's grace to me because now I work with late career business professionals who are facing retirement and they're in the same predicament. They have no idea of who they are outside of their job title and their job description.
their health might be falling apart because of the stress, or they're wondering, how am I going to pay for retirement when I don't have the paycheck? And it's a scary time of life. And so that's what I do now, and I love it. So Sonya, you're on.
Thank you, Barbara. I want to ask you, ladies, and I'll ask one by one. We've just heard Barbara's story of resilience, bounce back, doing it all over again, and now building that future. What I'd love to know is the moment that things changed for you. When did you realize that something had to shift? And Constance, I'm going to throw to you first.
Okay, when did I realize something had to shift? I can relate to Barbara and a lot of her story. I've never been married. However, I can relate to losing yourself in everything you do. I can relate to not knowing who you are, to being the mother, the grandmother, the daughter, the sister, whatever my position was at church, helping with whoever I did there. That was who I was. And I felt that emptiness when those things weren't there for me. So even being a mother, and when your children grow up and they get out the house, it's like, what do I do now? But then I focused more into work and other stuff, work and church. And then the work when I finally retired, and I'm wondering, what do I do? So when I retired, I think was the big moment that I realized I did not know who Constance was. I had no idea who this woman has been all of her life. And now we're at this moment of a big transition. I don't have the job to go to anymore. I don't have that to hide behind. So that's when my moment of transformation, or moment I knew I needed to transform, happened. It was after retirement. I was sitting at my table, much like I'm doing now, but I was just sitting here and I was just twiddling my thumbs. And then I looked around the room and I just felt lost. So that's when I knew, Constance, you have to work on you now, like stat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
And I know you're working on yourself, and it's amazing to see that transformation in you, because you're getting up every single day and doing it. Thank you for your share. Debbie, what about you? When did you realize something had to shift?
Well, I would say before a major incident happened in my life, I had decided that I wanted to live this perfect life of the strong woman that believed that if you're mentally, physically, and spiritually strong, that is the best thing that a woman can be. So I strived to develop myself physically, but I was struggling with my inner self, dealing with the emotional and the spiritual part of my life. So that wasn't the easy part. The easy part was the physical part. So I dove myself into being physically fit and thinking that would help me appear to be strong, appear to be having it under control, everything under control in my life. So that's the way that I lived my life. But then in 2012, something happened that sort of shifted my life. It changed my life completely. I was diagnosed with cancer. I woke up one morning having slight chest pains, thought it was nothing, really didn't think much of it. I had gone to the doctor maybe a couple of times prior to that. And when I went to the doctor, they told me that everything was fine. So this morning, I thought it was no different. I thought maybe it'll eventually go away. But as I decided to go to work, I realized that these pains were getting worse and worse. And I decided to drive myself to the hospital. So I drove to the hospital. When I got there and I was seen by the doctor said that, we're going to do a CT scan because I hear something strange in your voice. So he did a CT scan, and he was also aware that I had been to the hospital or checked out twice. He did the CT scan and told me I had a mass on my chest. And after doing some further examination, they realized that it was cancer. You can imagine how I felt. I felt like I was in the best shape of my life at the time that they made this diagnosis. I did not even expect that something like cancer would be a part of my life. It just blew me I was just blown away. But then after they told me the diagnosis, it was like my life began to go into a whirlwind of questions, and my questions went to God. It's like, God, what do you want from this? What do you want out of my life? How is this going to be used for your benefit. You say that you work things out for the good. So what good can come out of this? And then as I went on, I began to realize that the pain that I was feeling in my chest was not just my physical pain, but it was my emotional, my spiritual pain. I felt broken. I felt like God had discarded me. Like he really was not in my favor, that he didn't love me. He didn't care about me at that time, at that moment. That's what I was feeling. But then as time went on, I went through my healing journey with the support of my family, friends, and loved ones. And also, of course, continuing to talk to God and reading his word and trying to find strength there. But of course, I still struggled. I was still searching for answers. And then by the next year, 2013, I was diagnosed again with another form of cancer. Now, it put a stop. I put a stop to my life. I mean, as I knew that my life was not going to be the same after that. Of course, everybody knows that once you've been touched by cancer, your life is never the same. So it began to plague me with, fear, and I became overwhelmed with fear. But then I began to realize that God said in his word that he has not given me the spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. So I began to dwell on that word. And that word is really what pushed me into my healing. I really began to believe that that word was true, that God had given me power to speak into my own life, power to speak into the fear and the doubt of God loving me. And then he said that I've not just given you the power over those things, but you also have love. And the love that God gave me was amazing during that time, because I dove into every bit of the word that I could. I prayed, I talked, I meditated on that word, and I applied it to my life on a daily basis. And it began to heal me, because I began to realize that God truly did love me. And not only did he love me, I knew that in order for me to truly get healing, I had to be an active participant, which means that I had to love God back, which meant trusting him. So I decided to put my trust in God. And then he said he's given me self-discipline. So that was something that I truly needed, because I realized all the work that I was doing to try to get physically fit was not working. What I really needed to do is become aligned with God's word and become that what I originally wanted to become, which was spiritually strong, physically strong, and mentally strong. And that's when everything aligned for me. And that's when things changed.
Well, thank you, Debbie. I love that messaging. Through the power of faith, you're centered and you can see your path, and you're given the love and the strength to do what you need to do. So thank you for sharing. Miriam, what about you? When did shift happen for you? You're on mute. On mute.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Feel like I'm doing a commercial of, one of those famous telephone commercials. Okay, so that's really what happened. Shift happened to me. And I alluded to that before. So let's take us back to these numbers that are very important to me: 10, 2, 4, 0, 8. And unfortunately, I did not win the $1 million lottery. I guess I would have to play though to win, right? But that's not why those numbers are impactful for me. It's the day that someone decided, an unknown assailant decided to encroach upon my sanctuary, to invade my home. My son was away as a freshman in college at my alma mater. Shout out to HU, Hampton University. And I was at home. If I take these glasses off, I can't see a lick. But you know how you're sitting in the bed and the TV's watching you as you fell asleep? And for some reason, I had a stirring, and I kind of woke up with my glasses not on. And I put my glasses on, and I'm like squinting. And there was this figure right in my home, because I could see right through. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm just, waking up. It's a dream. No, not a dream. Shift happened that day for me because an unknown assailant had no good intentions, decided to attack me in my own home. And when I tried to scream because I thought that would be, alerting someone, I was in an apartment at the time, to hear me, that's when another shift happened for me. And he began to choke me. And I was like, the surrealness of it. Am I going to survive? And my last thought was, before I blacked out, I guess this is the day I die. But I didn't die because I am not a ghost. I am here in real time talking to you all. But man, can you all imagine you wake up one moment to wake up to your death? That was a shift happening moment for me. So when I did awaken from that situation, then I realized I had to pivot, and I had to pivot quick. And so I kind of pulled on my training in customer service and call center and managerial work. And I decided to do what I trained my reps, build rapport. Ironic, right? A paradox. Build rapport with the person who's attacking you physically and other unmentionables that we won't put on this show. But that's what I did. In order to survive, I had to negotiate my life. And that's what I did. I got out of that situation, but shift happened again because the aftermath was an aftermath of hell for me. When people go through a traumatic life event, and even though you go through your therapies and you do the things that you're supposed to do, that movie loop in your mind, that horror or whatever that traumatic life event, that takes you through, and you've got to get through that moment. And so what I had to do at that point was go through the therapies, but then I kept losing stuff. I lost my lucrative, almost six-figure job, got an eviction notice, getting ready to get homeless, lost my favorite car. It was like, what did I do? Why is this happening to me? I'm supposed to be a good person. I have been a good person. I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but yet all of this is happening. And then there became a cup of soup moment. So we talk about another shift happening in my life. And you might say, a cup of soup, what about that? Well, it was a cup of soup, a prayer from my adult son, because he had to come back from his freshman year of college. And, we took care of each other so that I could get through it. And a fit of laughter. And so I asked my son to get me a cup of soup from the local convenience store. He brought that. And I looked up at him with me looking like a little zombie in this bed. Like, can you pray for me? Because I couldn't even pray for myself. I don't know how many of y'all, maybe raise your hand even on this chat, have been there where you couldn't even pray for yourself. You just going through, you're desperate, you're depressed, you're just, at your wit's end. And he did. And in that prayer, he started going in, God, please help my mom, because I know I was looking crazy. And in that moment, something came up out of me. In that same spot where I got attacked in my bedroom, that same spot was the intervention that I needed, a divine intervention. And a roar came up out of me. That same kind of scream, a scream for help came out of my desperation. And I was like, Lord, thank you for this cup of soup. I'm like interrupting my son's great prayer because he was really going in for his mama. And I'm saying, thank you, God, for a cup of soup. And we looking at each other like, really, Ma? You interrupted me, and you asked me to pray for you. And I'm thanking God for a cup of soup. But you know what happened? That shift, that final little shift that I needed to having a divine intervention, to have a awakening out of my dead end zombie state or disillusionment or depression. And something clicked in me. And I realized, as a person of faith, for me, God had never left me or forsaken me. And he was like, look, I'm with you. I feel you. I know your pain. I hear you. But you're going to get through. And you know what? The Thankful Revolution was birthed right then and there in that time. because he was like, okay, whatever you go through, daughter, I want you to give me thanks, regardless. And so I had a shifting of my attitude, of my perspective, of my mindset, of my behaviors, of my talk, of my whole life, really. And the trajectory of my life changed because I started focusing on giving God thanks and just being grateful, grateful for the breath. And yes, I'm learning how to breathe again. And I'm learning what it means to live again and to live life and life more abundantly. And that was today. That cup of soup, a fit of prayer. Oh, did I tell you? When I interrupted my son, we looked at each other and we're kind of quirky. We kind of had that, families, you all kind of know, you had that family thing. We looked at each other because I'm thanking God for a cup of soup and we just started cracking up. And that laughter was the joy that had left me on that floor when I got attacked, but came back to me when I needed to be revived again and resuscitated. And that was what broke all that depression, was that joy again. And so, yeah, that moment of shifting, when that cup of soup, the prayer for my son, and a fit of laughter happened, and the birthing of the Thankful Revolution was what launched me into where I am now, the brand paramedic. I'm here to help you resuscitate what might be dead and in your life.
Thank you, Miriam. I heard you say that you had the therapy, and a lot of us go through those motions, right? But the biggest message here was you had the faith, you had your son, you had the support, and you had the belief in yourself. And once you got there, that's when things started to change. So I'm going to applaud you right now. Thank you for sharing. Alrighty, who wants to hear about my messaging? What changed for me? What was my defining moment? I got to tell you, I've had several. We're women, right? It's life is messy. We all have those moments, but there's always one that stays in our mind more than others. So here I am. I was the woman who had it all. On paper, I looked brilliant. I had the multi-billion-dollar projects I was running. I was in the boardroom leading and shaping industry. I had the house, the husband, the children. I had it all. So, I've got nothing to complain about, right? Yeah, we've all had those moments. I would work long hours. I would get home and still manage to cook the meals. I would have the house clean. God forbid somebody knocked on my door and my house was out of control. No way. I was never, ever going to let that happen. I would help the kids with the homework. I would remember the birthdays. I had this I come from an era where traditional marriages are a thing. And so I was my husband's secretary as well. I would do everything. I'd do everything. And on the outside, I looked unstoppable. On the inside, I was quietly breaking. And you know what? I did it so well that I taught my kids how to do it too. And that's the real sad thing. Because as women, or even fathers for that matter, we don't realize that our kids from a little age are looking at us and watching us. So my kids are brilliant. They do amazing things. Do they rest? Maybe not. So I had that Superwoman cape on and I stitched it into my skin. I was so good at it. It didn't even look frayed, but it was there. I didn't know how to turn off. I didn't know how to rest. I had got so good at not resting that my idea of resting was if I watched a television show and when you get the commercials, I'd sit for a few minutes. Once the commercial was on, I would run out, do something, and I timed it so well that I would come back and rest for a few minutes. That's not resting. It's not even living, but that's what I was doing. I wasn't listening to me. I just knew that I could do it, and everybody else knew that I could do it too. So, of course, the requests kept on coming in. My family, my work colleagues, my team, they knew that if they couldn't do something, well, then what the heck, I was going to do it. And then my body. My body was just showing me these warning signs. And, we've all had them. We've had the colds, we've had the flus, we've had 7 days in bed. We get the migraines, we get the headaches. Do we listen? We keep going, right? Because that's what we have been taught to do, and we've done it for so long, we know no different. Well, middle of the night, about 11 o'clock at night, I went to bed and I was asleep, and I started getting this pain in my chest, and I'm going, what the freaking am I doing here right now? What's happening? And I told my husband, and he said, oh, we had a rich meal. It's probably just indigestion, right? But as a woman, I had paid attention to what a heart attack looks like. Fortunately, it wasn't a heart attack, but I got up and I said to my husband, there's something wrong here. And I fell on the floor. And he said, just go get some, something to settle down your stomach. And I just went, no, there's something wrong. We need to go. We need to go to the hospital. Don't do what I did. I didn't call the ambulance because we're 10 minutes down the road. I got into the car. My husband drove me in the middle of the night. And all the while I was panicking and I was sweating, and it was just like, it was a nightmare. And I got into hospital. They checked my heartbeat, and it was running at 170 beats per minute and climbing, right? So at a resting rate, people sit around 90. If you've exercised, even if you're unfit, it sits around 140. Mine was 170 and climbing. I was taken into a room. I was hooked up. And I'm the type of person who gets in my head really easily. And all I kept on going was focus on the machines. I know what these machines are doing. And that, of course, created more anxiety. I was diagnosed with AFib, but for 24 hours, my heart was that. I couldn't rest. I couldn't sleep. Every time the machine went beep, 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 I just panicked more, and vicious cycle kept on going on. I was frightened. I was really frightened. I wasn't frightened for myself. I was frightened from everyone in my life. If that was it, that was it. But I was scared about the people I was going to leave behind. Doctors looked me straight in the eyes and said, we've done everything. We can't get this down. If this is not down by tomorrow morning, we're going to have to stop your heart. We're going to have to stop your heart and start it again, because that may be the only way to get it back into rhythm. I laughed. I laughed hysterically, not because it was funny, but because hadn't I always been doing this? I'd stop and start and get up again and just keep doing it. Even when I was on my back, down and out, anxiety, depression, I'd still get up and do it again, because that's what I'd been taught. Stopping and restarting my life. But this time I could not override it. And the fear that hit me wasn't just about dying. It was, what if I don't see my kids achieve their dreams? What if I never meet their partners? What if I never get to hold my grandchildren? What will my husband do? How will he cope? What if I leave this earth and there's no legacy? Just a life lived, and just a life lived in service, being everyone else's person to go to, being everyone else's person that they knew would always show up and say yes, regardless of my schedule. I would say yes. That was a sad moment for me. What if I left this earth and there's no legacy? I was in the prime of my life, professionally powerful. I was the one they looked up to, the one they called, but I was personally stretched thin, and I knew it. Still kept on going anyway. And the saddest thing was, if you'd asked me, who are you? I couldn't answer. What did that mean? What did that mean? I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a superwoman, I'm a leader. But I didn't know who Sonya was. All right, I can see you nodding your head right now, because it's not just a thing that we as women do, because I know that men do it too, but women seem to take it on more. We just go into these societal roles and we lose ourselves. We do it so well that when we're introduced, it's not I'm Sonya, it's I'm my daughter's mom, I'm my husband's wife. We never lead with, hey, I'm Sonya and I do this, and you know me because the connection is so and so. We don't put ourselves first. So when I was lying in bed in hospital, I couldn't run. I had to start looking at myself. And that was the moment when my shift happened, because I knew if I didn't change, I might not start and survive the next restart.
Sonya, what a powerful story. And just isn't that absolutely the truth? So often we are brought up, especially us women, we are brought up that if we do this, then we're going to have that. And then once we have that, then we'll become. All of us have now realized that we have to be first. And yet we're not taught. And so many women out there are in the same boat. Oh, that they're a wife and a mother and that's who they are. Well, no, that's not. That's what you do. It's a role you play. Absolutely. And they are absolutely important roles. But they're not who we are. And I think that's
it's not.
We have to get past that stereotype of that. Okay, well, yeah. Because like when I was brought up, we were brought up to be wives and mothers. We were not brought up to be business women and successful business owners. Yeah, no. Nice girls don't do things like that.
No, they don't. But they do. And Barbara, and Barbara, as I said, the saddest thing for me, and if anyone's listening right now, it's like your children, the next generations, and the women that you're leading in those boardrooms right now, they're watching you. And they think that's what you should do, but there is another way. And we all know that.
Right.
So, wow. Would anyone else like to say anything? Or we can move on to the next question.
I think this was so powerful for all of us, and the stories, every story was so unique, but I got something out of every single story. So powerful. And when you were talking, Sonya, and you were talking about them having to possibly reset your heart, I was thinking of that life having a hard reset. And I think that's what I did after I retired. I had to do a hard reset of my whole life, my whole mindset, everything I believed. I felt like I was living in the upside down, like I'm not really living in this reality, because it just really wasn't me. And all of us have said that we are always in these roles. We're always playing in these roles. We're always doing what's expected of us. We are taught to do that. I felt the same. I felt like I was Superwoman all the time. I had to get everything done. And then I had to take care of my household, do everything. And I did it on my own. But then I was thinking I was supposed to get married, and a man was supposed to. That's his role. So I thought something was broken with me, because I never had that man. No man ever said, Constance, I want to marry you. I want to take care of you. My mother had that in her role. I did not. So I thought, wow, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? So ladies, thank you so much. This is so real. And I know it's real to those of you who are listening on the outside. I know it is. It's so real for all of us. We play a role. We wear that smile. Oh, no one ever knew. They didn't know. If you didn't know me, you didn't know I was suffering. Because I'd have that smile and I would go and I'd do my work and I would supervise thousands of people and get their lives on the right track. But mine wasn't. So I really love this. I really love this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's the
Yeah.
same for me too, because I think, of course, all of us can relate to putting on so many different hats, trying to get everything done. You have the family, you have your profession, and you also have your own self-image, some things that you're trying to, just put in front. Like for me, it was being physically fit. I thought if I'm physically fit, then that means that I look like I'm confident, or I can be confident, because of my fitness. But it really was something that was making me feel like that's all I had. That was all that I had. I had just my fitness. I started believing that mentally I was not where I needed to be. Spiritually, of course, I was not where I needed to be. But physically, that's what I could control. And like you mentioned about control. That was the one thing that I can control. And that's where I'm confident. And so being there for other people was like, okay, I'm looking like I'm getting it all done. I'm doing my job. I'm making sure everything's done. But I really was struggling, like Constance and everyone else, inside from all the things that I was putting out and not getting enough back in. My healing. And my healing didn't start taking place until, again, I mentioned earlier, until I started seeking God and aligning to his word. And when I began to do that, I began to realize that my life was more about not just being physically fit, but having a balanced life, being aligned with God, which gave me that sense of purpose and making me realize that I was more than just a mom, working and keeping myself in shape. I was more than all of that. I was a woman that had power to speak into my life and to overtake all the fears and all the doubts and all the concerns that life was bringing me and throwing my way.
Right.
Mine.
Thank you. Go on,
I
Miriam.
would say in my journey, and I'm hearing from a lot of people, that one, it's okay to not be okay.
Right.
It's okay to admit that you got issues, because all of us got this little facade on, like, oh, we got it all going on. And that is not the truth. There is nothing perfect, except in my faith, I believe Jesus is.
Mhm.
But other than that, it's okay. In a book that I was in part of my therapy, I journaled and wrote, and one of my college buddy encouraged me to be on this book anthology. The theme that came and resonated out of my chapter was that God gives us all the grace to heal at our own pace, and that's okay. Not trying to keep up with somebody, or when you're going through and the people, you might have lost someone, a loved one, and you're going through and people are like, well, it's been 5 years. You should be over it. Why? This is my life. You don't know the grief or the pain that I go through, and that's okay to reclaim your voice, because that's part of your healing, to stand up for yourself and just say, okay, it's okay not to be okay. And it's okay to reach out, because as super women, we always want to take on everybody else's situation. But when we need it, we just slink away, and, we're suffering in silence, and we become stagnant. But sometimes when you reach out, and I'm not just saying to reach out to everybody, because there are haters out there, but reach out to a trusted, confident accountability partner, getting the therapy, your minister, a family member, just to end that journey of healing and getting back to you, or better you. Then it's okay to get the coaching or whatever you need. But yeah, reach out. Don't just be there in silent suffering, because we're here to tell you, we had some silent moments in suffering, but we're here to tell you it's a community, and we can thrive when we have each other to support. So I would just share that as well.
100%. Mary, whilst we're talking, I'd love to hear what your decision point was. What did you do to get to where you are now?
Who would you like to start? If you want me to share, I can lead that off. Okay, so as I told y'all before, I was in my own apocalypse of hell, the aftermath of hell, and feeling like a zombie, right? And then the divine intervention occurred. And that's when shift happened again for me, a moment of pivot. And that's key in my journey and in my life and my healing process about pivot and unleash. These two words are very important to me. So what happened is I kind of speak and walk and live and write in acronyms. So I'm gonna break down pivot for you, and you can all, hit me up if you want to learn about the unleash moment as well, that I'm walking unleashed. But in my moment of pivot in that journey, I had to first pause as the P, and I had to get still and face the truth. Where am I? I had to, kind of identify, what am I living in or not living in? And so I had to pause and just do some reflections. And then I had to go into my I moment, which is identify. I had to name that, okay, I'm depressed, or I have suicidal ideologies, or I'm happy, or I'm joyful, or I'm confused, or I'm bewildered. Name that and call it what it is. Stop trying to sugarcoat. Or I said this earlier, and I hope, Barbara, this is not cursing, but stop trying to pussyfoot around situations.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, let's get real with it. Identify, where are we? Okay. And then visualize, get your dream back. Visualize who you are. Imagine being healed and whole. Imagine that's your life now. All of us had to go through these same types of steps as well. And finally, be open to the opportunities and the possibilities that you're meant for better. You're not meant to be stuck, to be lacked and less than and limitations, and to be in a negative mind space, to be stuck in trauma. That's not what you're meant to. That's not where you're called to, so that you can take off into action. And even if you're afraid, the best action is doing it with courage and fear. They're twin. Courage and fear is right there. But do something, and be a mess if you got to. But if you continue to do something, I was talking to Coach Debbie, who's my wellness coach, starting off, I might not be the greatest at weightlifting or moving my legs and all of that, but start, do something, 5 minutes or 1 minute, because you did 1 minute more than you did before. And it may not be great. It may look ugly, but keep working on it, and you will get to the place where you're reframing, redefining, reclaiming, resuscitating, rewriting your story, and you're renewing your life mindset. So that's part of my decision. I decided to pivot, and I decided to use those types of steps and methodologies to get real with where I needed to be and where I wanted to go.
Yeah. And don't you think so much of what we go through brings us to what we do? That's like, I love your pivot. For me, I have a 4-step. You'll know who you are, find freedom from the limiting beliefs that are keeping you stuck. Find out your purpose. Purpose it can be such a small. I kept thinking that my purpose was some big thing out there. And when I finally learned was that my purpose was to serve God, to learn, and then to teach people what I've learned. Whoa. Oh, that easy? Yeah.
Yes.
It's that easy. It's that simple. And I think especially as women, we want to complicate things.
Keep it simple. And what we all have gone through, it wasn't for us. It's for everybody. What your story helps me. Constance's story helps me. Debbie's story helps me. Sonya's story helps me, and all of the other people who tune in. What we've gone through is actually for somebody else.
Right.
And so that's keeping it simple. That's the testimony that helps us all to become overcomers in this
Right.
life journey that we're walking.
And I think
So.
one of my biggest lessons through my journey was to get to the end of me. When, okay, all right, I cannot do this. Help. And that's when you reach out. That's when you reach out and go, okay, I can't do this.
No.
So.
Because, a lot of us think we're strong because we suffer in silence and we do it by ourselves, right? What I've learned is that's weakness. The strength actually comes in having that conversation with someone, phoning up a girlfriend, phoning up your mom, whoever it is, and just saying, I can't do this, I need help. That's where the real strength.
Yeah. And then you find the people that have similar, and then you realize that, this is, I loved what Miriam said. This isn't about me. This is about the people that are coming up after me, that I've now gotten through this and they're still suffering. How can I not share with them the steps that I've been through to get me through the opposite side? Because you only have two choices. You're either going to fold up your tents and die, or you're going to, as I always say, put on your big girl panties and survive and go on. Well, we're all here to tell you, hey, we're here.
That's it. Absolutely. So whilst we're talking, Barbara, what did you do? What was your next steps?
That was my biggest thing, is just get to the end of me and just realize that I needed help, and got coaching. And then realized, just signed up for all sorts of things. And then realized that some of the things that I've done over the past, oh yeah, I know, what did I do that for? But then I learned from it. And don't be afraid to start and stop stuff. Just because you wouldn't believe how many things that I have thought that I thought I was going to work with widows, and then I thought I was going to work with business owners, and then I thought I was going to be a personality trainer. And it was like, yeah, none of them worked. But that's okay. But then eventually you grow and you find that thing that you're meant to be doing. And if you had told me a year ago that I would do shows like this, I would have told you were nuts. But now it is such an important subject. Women need to know, and people need to know, that there's something out there for them, that they can get away from the labels that they put on themselves. And that's, I think, what is most needed is, who are you with? One of my favorite questions is, who are you within what you do? And so often people have no idea. And that's where all of our stories come in, because we can help them. So absolutely.
100%. In today's crazy world, we forget about that connection. But you know what? I think we also forget about that connection in ourselves, right?
Right.
We're all craving something. We're constantly on our phones. We're constantly on social media trying to get that connection and say, hey, and we don't even sit in the uncomfortableness of us to really learn who we are and get connected with us. Yeah. Thank you. What about you? How did you redefine your path? I'm interested. Tell us.
So how did I find who Constance was? She's still in process now. I'm still becoming. The biggest thing is I'm still becoming. And I was speaking the other night to these beautiful women, and I was telling them my journey, now that I'm learning to love me authentically, vulnerable, unapologetically, loving yourself. I believe that is so important for all of us to do. So now that I am on that journey, I am finding that there's so many things about me that I didn't even think were possible. I never thought I would be on platforms such as this, talking, or such as the Moment with Constance, or Choose the Challenge, or just everywhere that I speak, and even to people one-on-one, I never realized that I would be in this space. And mind you, my career, I was always helping people, and that was just sort of funny. No one knew how broken I was because I was good at hiding. Like I said, I was so good at hiding it, as we all are. I was good. I knew how to do it. And as you were saying, so I taught my daughter. I taught her the same thing. And so now I'm even working with her and telling her to get therapy if you need it, life coaching, whatever you need to make sure you are you. I get it. You have a husband and 5 children and you're a teacher and all this stuff, but you've got to be you. You've got to love you. I think one of the biggest things for me was being vulnerable,
Right?
Being unapologetically vulnerable. And to me, I believe vulnerability is strength. It is power, because we're not afraid to be vulnerable. Now I'm not. I was before. I'm not going to lie, but now I'm not. And I will be vulnerable. I'll go into those deep, painful places and pull out whatever's in there and work on it. I will take the blame for my life. I take responsibility. And that's something that a lot of us don't want to do. It's okay. There's nothing wrong. Like Miriam said, it's okay how we were before. I loved that woman I was before, but I love this one better. I love this one better. She knows who she is. I want to live this next phase of my life. And people say we're getting older. I say we're getting better. We're moving and we're getting better. I want to live this next phase of my life like it is the final play of the big game. And I want to leave it all out on the field. We might make mistakes in the big game. We do. We make mistakes. We like Barbara just said, we might have to start over and do this over and that over and do it over again. Or maybe that just didn't work and we go on to something else. But as long as we keep moving, we don't have to see the finished product. But when we get there, we're going to know it. And then we'll keep going. I love becoming who I am as I'm working toward my goal. Because when I get to that goal, I will have become the woman who can achieve it. And then I can go on, and that will be, I keep a victory journal, like a success journal. I keep that because you look at that and it builds you up. It keeps you in a powerful mindset. So a success journal and a thankfulness journal, keep both of those. Those will keep your mindset in the right place to keep moving forward and building yourself. Like I said before, we can all change our lives one thought at a time. And that's what I talk about almost daily on A Moment with Constance. So thank you for this opportunity yet again. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I was listening to all your messages. I'm done. You know, my youth has been spent. I'm aging, becoming invisible, and that's what women tend to be doing. They shrink, and they start, they start wearing comfortable clothes, and there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. But what happens is you can be wearing comfortable clothes and you can walk into a room and you can own it, right? You can go, here I am. This is me. I am owning the world because I am the queen of my life. But we forget to do that. We start shrinking. And so your messaging Constance of, get yourself another goal. Just keep moving, redefine yourself. You can still be the same person, but do it with love for yourself.
So awesome. Well, ladies, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sharing some final words, and just thank you so much for coming. And for our audience, for those of you that are going to be listening to this in the future, reach out to these ladies. And because, if something that has been said strikes a chord, then follow that impulse, because that could be the turning point of your life. So Sonya, if you lead us off and for final words.
Sorry, I lost everyone there. My Wi-Fi went out.
You froze. So we're just talking about final words. So Sonya, can you hear
All
us?
right. Well, my final words are,
Okay.
I can. Yep. My final words are, and I can hear everybody's messaging right now, is do the hard work. Don't be afraid to. It doesn't matter whether you think that, you don't have time to unravel, you don't have time to give up your job. Well, that's not what we're asking here. We're just asking you to do the hard work on yourself, to come to a place where you can love yourself again, and then you can be comfortable with yourself. And once you've done that, then you can live your life to the fullest, the life that you were given, the life you were meant to live. And you don't have to do it by yourself. You can, it'll take you longer. Or you can reach out to one of these lovely ladies on this panel, and we can help you, because it is hard. It is hard work. But in the uncomfortableness, that's when your life changes. And you also allow your children and everybody else watching you go, I've got the strength to do it too. And what a lovely legacy that is for yourself and for all those you're touching.
Okay, Debbie, how about? Okay, I don't know if you, Sonya. Okay, Debbie, how about for you?
So I guess what comes to mind for me is not letting you live your life in fear. I think a lot of people live their life fearful of what is to be, what could be, the past, the situations that they've gone through. So a lot of people allow fear to stop them from moving forward. So I would tell people to not live your life in fear. But also, I would say, in order to do that, you have to set yourself up for success. As Miriam mentioned earlier, sometimes it's just little things, taking little steps at a time in order to succeed, whatever it is that you're trying to succeed in. One of the things that I do, some daily habits that I have, is of course sitting still in God's presence before I start my day. I really sit in His presence and kind of look for His guidance on what it is that He wants me to do throughout that day, to line my life up to the things I know that needs to be done in order for me to be healthy, happy, and whole. So one of the things that I would do also is, if I wanted to set myself up for success, I'll make sure I document whatever it is that I'm getting from that time that I'm spending with God. So I love to document things. I love journaling. Like somebody else mentioned, journaling is just something I enjoy doing. So I write those things down, because I'm looking from the wisdom for God, because I'm relying on Him for my life, right? So if I'm relying on Him, I'm going to need His wisdom. So I write it down, but I also apply it to my health and wellness. So I get into working out. I still move my body. Movement is key. If we don't use it, we lose it, ladies. If we do not use it, we lose it. So we have to stay active. We have to do something in movement. So I make sure that there's some movement going on in my life on a daily. If I do nothing but go for a walk, do some type of strength training, mobility exercises, that type of thing is very key. And of course, you want to make sure that you're eating nutritious meals, healthy meals that are going to help your body have energy, have strength, also allow you to have well-rounded, days throughout the day, sustained energy, but you also want to be able to rest at night. So being able to be physically active, eating a healthy diet also helps you to rest well at night, and taking care of yourself. But another thing I would say is to just always be willing to be still at sometimes. Make sure that you're getting rest as well. Rest means self-care, things that you can do for yourself. Make sure that you're in a healthy space. Meditation is something that I do, of course, with my relationship with God, but I also take time to do little things. I love acupuncture, um, massages, whatever I can do for self-care to make me feel relaxed and comfortable and feed into my body, mind, and spirit doing those things. It's just really powerful for me. And of course, the final thing I would say is being in a community of people that are like-minded, people that can encourage you, support you, and somebody that you can pour into as well. Because one of the things about living a healthy life that I think sometimes we neglect. Even though a lot of us pour into people and we don't pour in ourselves. When I say pour into people, I mean be available to help others. But you can only do that if you're in a healthy space yourself. It's very difficult to help others when you are challenging yourself in one aspect of your life and not willing to step outside of that to say, okay, I need to be completely whole. So of course, that's why I say spirit, mind, and body, because that's the complete package that God has given us. He's given us all of that to manage and under His guidance. So that's what we need to apply each and every day. So that's what I would say. Those are my last words.
Cool. All right, Constance.
My final words for today for me basically is mindset. You change your mind, you change your life. The word of God says, as a man thinks, so goes his life. I say, as a woman thinks, so goes her life. And really, that is reality. As we think, what we're thinking today in our subconscious being is what we're going to live tomorrow. So let's be careful what we put in, what we believe about ourselves. Let's be really careful about that, because that shows up. I was listening to, and I'm not sure if it was Barbara or if it was Sonya that said, when you go into a room, I think it was Sonya, fill that space. Even in your comfortable clothes or whatever, fill that space. Bring in the energy. You know when your energy is up or down. We know when our vibration's up or down. We know that. Let's keep that powerful and fill that space up with us, so people will see you and they will be like, oh, wow, look at her. I used to know the old her. Look at her now. She's changed. Let me find out what her secret is. So do that. Fill that space. Become that woman that you are. You already are her. You are her. So just walk in it. So walk in it, but let's work on how we think about ourselves. Love ourselves.
Cool.
And you can reach me on Facebook. The link is in the chat, but also it is A Moment with Constance. I do want you to join me. If you have any questions, DM me on that platform, Facebook.
So Miriam.
Well, this has been really great, because for right now in this present economy and society, I feel like people need hope. I feel like a lot of us are at our wits' end. And going back to that word again, we're not going to sugarcoat it. We're not going to be up here fake. We've all gone through something. And I'll go back to, it's okay not to be okay. A couple of things. As the brand paramedic, why do I call myself that? Remember, I told you I felt like I flatlined. And basically, I did have a moment of death at the hands of an assailant, unknown assailant. But even after that aftermath, I had to basically, what Barbara said, come to the end of myself. I died. That woman that was living that gloomy and doomy life had to be revived, was flatlined. And when I had that divine intervention, a song came out. And I didn't tell y'all about that music, but I come from a musical background. And it took 2 songs to really get me through that dark period. And I'm not trying to promote anything, but Mary J. Blige, Just Fine, and Donald Lawrence, I Speak Life, those 2 songs got me through. And I had to play them as the movie loop in my mind, so I wouldn't go back to that traumatic life event in that death syndrome. So I would say to all of you all, if you felt like your dream has died, if you felt like you're at your end of your life, if you feel like that you're stuck and maybe you're living out somebody else's dream, you go to that 9 to 5 and you work 80 hours a week, and you just like, I'm just here. We only have one life to live. Why not enjoy it? Why not live your best life ever? And you can. I don't care what age you at, from 2 to 102, while you still got breath in your body, you can be revived into your best life ever. And that dream that might have been deferred does not have to be remain dusty on the shelf. You can find a place where you will make your significant impact. So you don't have to be like a lot of percentage of people in that graveyard that have dreams that died right there with them, or that have a regret syndrome. That I'm trying to disband that. I want to disbanding that in my own life. I'm not going to live a life of regret. So why should we? So just like Constance, if you want to reach out and find out more about getting your own soul song, because with the power of AI, yeah, let's admit AI is here to stay. It's always been here. I help people. I've actually everybody on here except Barbara, we got to work with you, have their own soul song from me.
Hey.
And it's helped us to get through. I have my own theme song that I plug in and play when I go through. And that's something about that power of music will get you through something and remind you of who you are when you're in your desperate moments. So yeah, check me out. My website is the Thankful Revolution Legacy Group.com. But I'm also on Facebook a lot. Direct message me. You have the link up there and check me out. And I just want to do one little point. I am a shameless plug. Right now, God has moved me into a new position. So when shift happens and, I lost so much, but now I'm getting those open door opportunities I talked to you all about. If you're out there and you want to get yourself known, you want to be on television, you want to get on programs and platforms like that, hit me up. We got casting call coming up next week. And so hit me up to learn more about it. Just thank you, Barbara. Thank you, ladies, for taking your moments and your time to share your heart with us. We've been real. We're pouring out right now because we need hope. We need some light. We don't need to continue to turn on our news channel and just hear death and doom or, everything's so bad. No,
Things are good.
there could be, we can have we could be resuscitated. Get that CPR, right? So I would say that.
All right. Okay. Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming here. For me, my final words are just quit beating yourself up for the things that you're not and celebrate the things that you are. Thus, I always so often come back to Mariah Carey with these things, how we're talking about music, her song Hero. When a hero comes along, know that it's inside you. That's you are your own hero. And so act like it. So, which brings me to a shameless plug for me. Sonya was gracious enough to become a co-host and bring on a panel of absolutely fabulous ladies. If you would like to do the same thing, to be a co-host and bring on your own panel of people to talk about this such needed subject, then just reach out to me. But this is where you can reach me on LinkedIn. And if you would like to be a show host, you can reach out to me here and just click a time with me and become a show host. And it's just, and I think everybody agrees that it's been fun to do it. And we just get to know about each other, and that we're all we can't do life on our own. So why not do it together and just have a great time? So thanks for watching. And you've been listening to Striving to Thriving, Redefining Success. So our question today is, how do you want to redefine success in your life? So have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.